Well, as it seems, I guess I'm stuck on the topic of enlightenment. And I keep going back to it. And honestly, in my opinion, as I said in my last video, I don't believe that enlightenment, spiritual enlightenment, is the end-all be-all or something that should be necessarily desirous to get, even though Buddha certainly appeared to exhaust his efforts for a decade or more, striving to become enlightened before becoming enlightened. And that fact, in fact, it was his biggest desire to have. So it's kind of it goes against the current teachings. Well, of course, the current teachings are done by people that are either demonic or so ignorant as to not be able to comprehend the least degree of what spirituality is all about, because they teach that you need to have no desire, no push, no drive, because anything of that nature will make it literally impossible to become enlightened. But in fact, that is proven to be absolutely not true in the only real universally accepted example of someone becoming enlightened, which would be Buddha. There's a guy that spent his life in the most intense desire, so much so that he exhausted every ounce. Now they can say, well, he finally threw in the towel and gave up before he became enlightened, but that's idiotic to say that, because that would be like saying everything up to that point was a waste. And that and that a decade or more of the most intense efforts were a waste, but that the only thing that counted was the 30 seconds prior to him becoming enlightened. He threw in the towel, so to say, and surrendered and gave up. And that is the only valid thing that he actually did in his life, was that last 30 seconds. Everything else was a waste. Well, of course, if you believe that, you're an idiot, because that just isn't so. But that's what they teach. I mean, I know that that's not the way they teach it, but that is what they teach. And it just absolutely isn't true. So yeah, you do have to strive. Intensely so, more so than anything that you can possibly imagine. But again, I was discussing this matter with my wife, and she kind of corrected me, and I have to recant and say, I think she's right. I'm going to continue to give it more thought and more meditation and more contemplation upon the subject of spiritual enlightenment and God enlightenment and stuff, and to see if in fact she's right, and I think she is. That I have said in the past that you do not have to have the pure love of God in your heart to become spiritually enlightened, because in fact Buddha became enlightened, and he didn't have the pure love of God or the love for God in his heart. It is assumed. But my wife says that no, it's her view that without the pure love of God as the foundational principle within an individual, you cannot become enlightened, both like Buddha enlightenment or like Jesus enlightenment, meaning one is a type of enlightenment, Buddha, I call Buddha enlightenment, which is the realization of reality, and the other one is God enlightenment, which is the enlightenment that Jesus had. And I have mentioned in the past that, well, Lucifer or Satan is enlightened, and he does not have love in his heart. Well, I've been wrong. I take that back. In that Satan or Lucifer or Shiva is not enlightened, is not only not enlightened to the level or in any level comparable to Buddha or comparable to Jesus. Does that mean that, so I guess you have to redefine. And when I say redefine, I'm not redefining enlightenment. What I am is redefining what I assumed Satan was aware of or enlightened. That's what I'm redefining, because Satan is not enlightened. And why do I say that? Well, because, see, you don't have to be enlightened to know that this is a remote control for me to turn my video camera off and on. You don't have to be enlightened to know that. It would be assumed that I am enlightened if I were to reach out to some remote Aboriginal tribe in the most remote parts of the world that are totally unaware of the world around them, or electronics or anything of that nature. And then if one of the tribe's members escaped that tribe and was taught the electronics reality that we exist in and all that kind of stuff, and then studied electronics and knew what a remote control was, and he goes back to his tribe, it would be assumed that he's enlightened, when in fact all he is knowledgeable and aware. He's not enlightened. So again, redefining Satan, he is like the understanding of the remote control. He fully is aware of how this reality functions, and this is why he's called the God of this reality, this realm, this world. And he is also coexisting in the astral plane and other planes of existence that I'm not even aware of at this particular time. Or maybe I am aware, but I'm not cognitively aware because I exist right now in a physical body in my mind. And so those other realms, I may be aware at a certain level, but I am not as aware as I am in this particular realm, knowing that this is a remote control. I hope I'm not confusing you, but my point being is Satan is not aware of reality to the level, or anything close to the level of what Buddha was enlightened as to the reality of this plane of existence. So, and why? Why? because Satan does not have the love of God in his heart. Because it's a prerequisite to have the love of God. And notice how I use those words, love of God. I throw that out all the time, and I do it in such a way that you don't question. It's like my last video. I talked about tape and a hammer, and there's a difference in reality between the two, but nobody ever questions. And nobody ever questions when I say love of God. What the hell does that mean? Does that mean he loves God? Does that mean, what does that mean? Well, those words are very specific in how I throw them out there constantly. Love of God is defining the root nature of the love I'm speaking of. It's not like I love my car, and I know there's Greek words that define love in different ways, and it's like, I don't give a damn about that. I'm not even talking about that. That's just getting caught up in definitions that were created by people that don't even understand the nature of what they're trying to define. But when I say the love of God, it's like, think about that. The car of Bill, or the car of Chevrolet, or whatever. When I say the love of God, I'm speaking of a specific love that is exactly the same as the love that God has, or that God is. So when I say Buddha had the love of God in his heart, he had to, or he would not have become enlightened. Love doesn't mean you understand to the fullest degree something. When you love your spouse, does that mean you know reality from the same perspective as your spouse? No. What that means, however, is that when you love your spouse and your spouse loves you to the same level as the love of God, then that love never fails. It isn't contingent upon your spouse cheating on you. It isn't contingent upon anything. It cannot fail, because the love of God never fails. And so Satan doesn't have the love of God. He may have the love of money, or the love of power, or the love of influence, but he doesn't have the love of God. And so Buddha had the love of God in his heart, as witnessed by the fact that the next 40 years of his life before he died, he spent his entire life trying to explain and help others to understand what reality is, or what it can be understood to be. Okay, now this is going to sound kind of weird, but I want you to pay attention to this, because I'm going to, just because my brain doesn't, nobody's brain, well, when I say nobody's brain, it's very difficult to make your brain do what I'm going to do right now, okay? This is an important thing that, honestly, I've never heard anyone in the world ever define reality this way. But I want you to pay attention to this. This is really seemingly silly or stupid, but I'm going to cut the tape just because I have to cut and start and cut and start and cut and start, because my brain is incapable of doing what I'm going to do. Now, my brain is capable in other ways. You know how people do, they go like this, they roll their hands like this, and then they train their brain and they go, well, make your hands go backwards, and they go this way, and then go, no, make your hands go opposite. So I've trained my brain. You can try this, and this is not the experiment I'm going to do, but it's like, do this. You see how my hands are going the opposite direction, and then you can rotate them and go this way, or you can go this way, or you can go this way. But try doing that, and it's just a thing that trains your brain. Okay. So now I can't do this without stopping and starting the tape. You've heard of the little acronym, not acronym, the little thing, Tic-Toc, 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 Tic-Toc. You've heard that. People go Tic-Toc, 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 Tic-Toc. Tick-tock, 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 tick-tock. Okay. So, now I did cut the tape in between them, and I have to because my brain isn't able to do this sort of thing with verbalization, and because I haven't practiced it. But you don't recognize a difference in the tick-tock, tick-tock. But the reality is it's extremely different. Because one, and I want you to do this. Because one is the way you've always learned it your entire life. And it is always started with tick. Tick, and then the next word is talk, but it's kind of like down. It's like the octave is down. Tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock. But if you start it the opposite way, your brain is like screwed up. It doesn't even sound the same, and yet it is the same. You start with the bottom one, talk, and then go tick. Talk, tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock, tick. Now start the other one, tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock. It's just the way you start it. But it's exactly the same. And even though it's exactly the same, in your brain, it is totally different, so different that it doesn't sound the same. Your brain can't seem to comprehend that it's the same. It's really a weird thing. But it's identical. It is the same. So why am I bringing that up? I'm bringing it up because enlightenment and almost all things spiritually that an enlightened person tries to help other people understand. Because when I say enlightened people or an enlightened master trying to help someone understand spirituality, someone that's actually asking and wants to know, it doesn't matter how the master presents it. It's always going to come out the way you understand reality. So when I say tick-tock, 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 or talk, tick-tock, tick-tock, do you see? It doesn't matter how the master presents it. You're always going to perceive it the way you perceive reality. You're never going to perceive it the way the master is presenting it. It's never going to happen. Without the caveat, without there being something upon your part to dig deep within your heart and soul and question, why is it, this is the question, why is it I don't seem to feel the same thing that he feels? Why is it he seems to be enlightened and he's saying things and I don't feel enlightened? Why is that? That's the question you need to be asking. The next question is questioning yourself. And this is where the great spiritual gurus of thousands of years ago, tens of thousands of years ago. Krishna, Jesus, trying to explain something to you that is like going over your head. And what they're trying to express to you is you're hearing and you're seeing. And the master is continually saying the same damn thing over and over and over, because there is no other way to say it. But you're hearing, you're interpreting the sounds and the reality and the words to conform to your unenlightenment, your unenlightened state of being. You're converting enlightened material into unenlightened words, actions, experiences. You're the one doing it. Jesus was the prime example, so much so that in Christianity terms, they're wrong, by the way. In Christianity terms, they assumed Jesus to be God. This Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, that he was, and of course he wasn't, and he isn't this God that he prayed to, but nevertheless, he is the epitome in Christian theology. He is the epitome of a individual that you should strive to understand what this individual was trying to teach, and yet 2,000 plus years later, relatively a handful of people can understand what he was trying to teach, because only a handful of people have become enlightened to the level of what Jesus was. So much so that the ignorant fools of Christianity leadership teach that, well, you can't become like Jesus because he was the Son of God. He had some sort of DNA that didn't require a male and female. I'm being facetious here, of course, but nevertheless, that's what they think. Well, they're wrong, of course. My point being is, until you get to the point where you question yourself, until you get to the point where you go, and this is where the great masters are saying you need to surrender. What do they mean by that? That doesn't mean be a lazy slob and sit down and do nothing, which is what a lot of non-duality morons teach. You have to be actively engaged to the most strenuous efforts possible. And the turmoil that is caused within your heart and soul and mind. And why is that turmoil there? It's there because you keep interpreting the words of spiritually enlightened masters into unenlightened nonsense that conforms to this particular realm. And until you get to that point where you question, I don't know, this guy is saying Tic-Tok, but he isn't saying Tic-Tok. He's saying Tok-Tic. But I think he's saying Tic-Tok. And it would take a complete surrender to go, apparently 2 plus 2 does not equal 4. I've been taught my entire life and existence, I know beyond shadow of a doubt, it's impossible for me to be fooled into thinking 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4. It would be impossible unless somebody did a lobotomy on my brain or whatever. Short of that, I know that 2 plus 2 equals 4. Now, when I say I know, I'm assuming I'm you. You have to get to the point where you question that. Not only question the nature of 2 plus 2 equals 4, but recognize that when the enlightened master is telling you 2 plus 2 does not equal 4, he's not trying to trick you. He's not trying to make you insane. He, her, whatever, is trying to help you extinguish the nature of how you convert information. Because your body, as told by Jesus, said, your body is not only a temple of your spirit, but it's also contradictory in the nature that Jesus said the natural man is an enemy to God. What the hell does that mean? How in the hell can he say in one breath, the natural man is an enemy to God, and then in the next statement essentially say, well, your body is the temple of your spirit? Don't you question these things? They seem so contradictory. And yet he wasn't lying. But everybody goes on and assumes that, well, I know what he was saying. But you don't know what he was saying, because these things seem contradictory. And then you listen to these wise serpents that demonic teachers of non-duality and spirituality and etc., go on and try to explain this stuff away in some nonsensical way. Trickery, of course. You have to understand one thing, another thing, that the path to becoming enlightened is fraught with deceptions. The nature of this reality is such a deceptive nature, designed as such to trick you into the concept of distracting you away from your spiritual awareness so that you think reality is, well, exactly what it is, that reality is a remote control. Of course, it is in this particular reality, but you're trying to become enlightened. And if you're trying to become enlightened, then you have to recognize the fact that things like this aren't what they appear to be. Just because they appear to be a remote control doesn't necessarily mean that's the case. From the perspective of an enlightened individual. From the perspective of an enlightened individual, 2 plus 2 does not equal 4. 1 plus 1 does not equal 2. From the perspective of an enlightened individual, there is no such thing as 1 plus 1. Of course, then the next step is the people will say, oh, so then you believe in non-duality? Well, you see, that's where things get really confusing to people, because if you dig down deep and you keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper, questioning a spiritually enlightened master, they'll get to the same point as a person that's trying to promote non-duality. And why is that so? Because from the perspective of Shiva, from the perspective of Lucifer or Satan, they understand what non-duality is. And they also understand that if a person digs deep into the spiritual nature of reality, they'll get to a point where they understand, because the master is going, well, there's no such thing as 1 + 1. Well, then it must be non-duality. See, that's where they go wrong. Well, if it isn't this, then it must be that. No, it isn't this and it isn't that. Well, then, of course, then the mind of even a demonic person that is very, very schooled in the nature of the astral plane and this plane and demonic forces and everything else, they understand a lot more of what reality is than the common person. But even they will get to a point where they get confused because they default to non-duality. But in the ancient writings of the Hindu texts of Advaita, and it was defined by, who knows? I don't think it was Adi Shankar, but who knows? But it was saying that Advaita means not two. I'm getting off the track here a little bit, but so be it. Not two doesn't mean one. Do you see how that is? Do you see how ignoramus it is to say that the explanation of Advaita is not two? Oh, well, then it must be one. Everything is one. That's just stupid. That's like saying 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4. Okay, well, then it must equal 3. If 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4, why do you just assume it equals 3? And then everybody sits around in their Sangha meetings and going, oh, great master, yes, it must be 3. I'm smiling because it's actually funny sometimes how easily people can be led astray. I was led astray, but I don't think that I was led astray by evil people. I think I was just led astray. Well, everybody's led astray. I mean, for 40 plus years of my life, I studied spirituality based from a concept of what people thought was true. That's how I learned. But because I'm so inquisitive, I keep questioning. Me questioning, not based upon what somebody's telling me, but I personally question. That doesn't seem to be true, because I've tested these things. And when you test them and you go, wait a second, that doesn't seem to be true. And then you go to some so-called spiritual master and you ask them the questions and they go, well, some things we just don't have the answers for, and you just have to accept that at this time. No, I don't. I don't have to accept that. What I can do is say, well, if you don't know, who does know? And they go, well, nobody really knows. It's kind of a mystery. Then I go, wait a second. So you're telling me that apparently Jesus knew, apparently Buddha knew, apparently Krishna knew, apparently Lao Tzu knew, apparently there's these individuals in the past that knew, apparently God knows, but I can't know? No, I'm sorry, I don't accept that. Oh, well, you're at a physical level in reality where you can't know. Bullshit. You can know. How can you know? The pure love of God. That's how you can know. So you cultivate the pure love of God, which is the only thing, and it's yours. When you cultivate the pure love of God, It is something, it's not like you're getting something from God. Oh, well, I'm going to cultivate. It's like I'm going to grow something that isn't within me, that isn't me. No, you're developing it, you're cultivating it, you're doing whatever it is you're doing to magnify, to empower, to grow, to build, to escalate, to explode, to whatever it is, that spark in you that you recognized initially as an essence when you were in the belly of Brahman and you awoken. It's because that spark was the tiniest, tiniest, tiniest love of God. Otherwise, you wouldn't have responded and you wouldn't exist. So is it fair to say that Satan or Shiva doesn't have even a spark of love of God within them? No, I wouldn't say that, because in fact they exist, they responded, but they ignored it as they continued on. Because why? Because what is more prevalent in their heart, soul, nature? What's more prevalent is they love power, they love money, they love influence, they love to control, they love, and so it puts on the sidelines, or it puts in the back, way back, the love of God that they initially responded to. And then, of course, as I've said before, to backtrack, repentance isn't just going, oh, yeah, I've made mistakes, I've murdered and killed lots of people, and I've ate the hearts of little babies, and I've sinned beyond imagination, but you know what? Yeah, I think that was probably pretty bad, so now I'm good, and I've repented, and now I'm just as good as everyone else. Well, you know what? It doesn't work that way. You actually have to turn your car around and drive back the other direction as far as you went that direction before you can start making headway. That's the nature of repentance. You can do it because you, the essence of you, is always in control. Always. You may give up that control to someone else. There's a concept of saying selling your soul to the devil. Of course you can cede your power away from yourself by being lazier or being whatever. When you desire power and all these sorts of things, you're giving up the nature within you of the love of God to grab this other thing that you're wanting. That's why this reality is so incredibly difficult, because as I've said before, if you pursue the love of God from an enlightened point of view, kind of, to the fullest extent, well, then you perish, you die. Because in this particular realm, you have to either kill something to sustain this physical body, or you die. If you don't kill something and eat it, then you have to hire someone else to kill it so that you can eat it. Because you can't just breathe air and exist. You can't just drink water and exist. You have to kill a plant, or you have to kill an animal, or that's the nature of this reality. You can be high and mighty and think of yourself as I'm just really superior to everyone else. I'm this Buddhist monk that is just the epitome of goodness and everything, because I love nature and I love this. Bullshit. It's a false teaching. It's bullshit. There's no such thing. The wonderful monk that you worship, that has this aura of wonderfulness about them because they are so great and they have given up and they only eat plants and everything. It's bullshit. They step on bugs when they walk somewhere. They wear clothing that people had to produce in factories that had to kill things so that they had the physical strength to build the clothes that the monk wears. He has to get in his car to drive somewhere to go do his wonderful teachings of spirituality to help people understand while everybody worships the ground he walks on. It's a lie. It's a pure, bogus lie. And if the monk thinks that he's a good person, he's lying to himself. Because in this realm, you kill or you die. The conflict or the you just have to accept that in this reality, that's what we're confronted with, is kill or die. If you die, you don't become spiritually enlightened. If you kill, you continue to exist, to live another day, so to say, so that you can become more spiritually aware, more spiritually inclined, more spiritually enlightened. Now, I could get into the concept that, like, when I say kill, I'm kind of saying it in a negative, connotative way, trying to make a point. But the Native American Indians, for instance, if you've studied anything of what they teach, they're more enlightened. In fact, they are fully enlightened to the nature of what I'm talking about. So much so that they understand and they praise with great respect the animal that they have to kill in order to sustain their own life. They're grateful for the sacrifice that the animal had to endure. So they're not disrespectful of the seemingly chaos that they themselves have to commit in order to live another day. And of course, I've never heard that from a Buddhist monk because they're all idiots. They don't understand. If they were to understand nature from the perspective of a Native American Indian, then they would be way further ahead. But they don't do that. No, they teach the demonic nature, which is a lie. You can't become enlightened by being fooled or continuing a lie. The pure love of God dissipates ignorance. So I think I've rambled long enough for today. This is the first video for the year 2022. How interesting. Anyways. Don't know how many videos I'm going to continue to make in the future because I don't know how, I don't, to the extent, I know there's a few people that watch the videos, and I know that, and I've said before, I don't know why I make videos, because I just do it. In reality, I probably will continue to make videos. And I remember one thing rings true in my head when I was a Christian. The concept of missionary work was, if you should actually help one person in your entire life of work, spiritually speaking, it is said in Christian circles, how great will be your joy in the life hereafter. And of course, that's true, because besides yourself, meaning from and it's not a selfish point of view, but besides yourself becoming enlightened, working on your own self, like Buddha worked on his self. He wasn't interested in teaching other people or helping other people, he spent his decade or more in the jungles and everything else working on his own development. Who knows who he helped along the path? I'm sure he did when situations arrived. But that wasn't his main focus. His main focus was to develop his own spiritual nature. But after he became enlightened, then his main focus was to help others. Why? Why would he do that? Why would Jesus do what Jesus did to help others? Why? Well, if not for the fact that how great shall be your joy in the life hereafter, see, again, that's like the Tic-Tok or the hammer tape scenario I was playing out before. What the hell does that mean? How great shall be your joy in the life hereafter? Well, from a perspective of unenlightened view, that would mean, from a greedy standpoint, oh yay, how great shall be my joy in the life hereafter, because I'm going to be awarded great things from God. Oh, look at how good you are. You converted someone. Therefore, wow, you're great. Let's pin a badge on your lapel or something. See, you converted someone. You're so wonderful. Let's all praise you. See, that's the demonic, satanic view of reality, not the view of an enlightened person with the love of God in their heart. The concept of how great shall be your joy in the life hereafter is because if someone is eternally one with God and one with you, and you were one of the individuals that helped that person to become aware and enlightened and such, then you have an eternal friend. What more is there than that? There isn't anything more, even from the enlightened point of view of God. There is nothing more valuable than an eternal friendship based upon the love of God. There's nothing more important. Nothing. But of course, you can't get there by being an ignorant fool. You can't get there by being a lazy do-nothing. Does that make sense? So I guess that's why I make videos. Because I've had a vision of eternity several years ago. It's like I experienced reality through a time machine and experienced reality to the end of this kalpa of time and into the next kalpa of time and into the next and the next and the next. It reminds me of the story or stories in the Lotus Sutra that is attributed to being taught from the mouth of Buddha. That was my experience. And in that experience, it is true that in the end, there is no end, of course, but that's just a saying. the value of eternal friendship based upon the pure love of God is the epitome of everything. It's why you do everything. Opposite-wise, the unenlightened Satan does things for a different reason, thinking, because he's unenlightened, that eternity is based upon power, authority, rules, laws. But it isn't, because all of those things dissipate in the pure love of God. Anyways, thank you for watching, and yeah, just the thought of eternal friendship. I absolutely love you beyond all comprehension. Lastly, be aware that there's a huge amount of people in this world, percentage-wise, that are demonic. And when I say demonic, so a person can be demonic and be completely and utterly ignorant that they are demonic, ignorant of what they are doing and what they have done. So they just function as best they can in the world, but they're demonic. And as such, they're going to be opposed to you. And so when you accomplish something spiritually in your life and you feel good about it, it's like, wow, I feel so good about understanding something finally. And you want to share that with somebody. I mean, that's the nature of a person that has the pure love of God in their heart. They want to share that. They're excited. I want to go tell my friend or this or that or whatever. But there's a huge percentage of people that are demonic. And when you go out and try to explain this to them, all they're going to do is try to dissuade you from that. All they're going to do is go, well, you probably shouldn't listen to stuff like that because, you're going insane and there's something wrong with you. And here, let me teach you what the truth is really, and blah, 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 blah. That's what happens in this reality. So I just want you to be aware of that. You're going to run into that. And the more closer you get to spiritual enlightenment, the love of God, the more closer you get to God enlightenment, the closer you get to Buddha type enlightenment, the closer, the more intense the opposition will become. And it continues to intensify. I mean, the story in the Bible about Job is a good example. And in fact, the story of Job is so mellow and so easy compared to what you're going to have to experience if you become enlightened. But it's worth it. That's the thing. Right up until that point, you won't think so. But right afterwards, boom. And I do mean in an instant. When you become enlightened, when you become God enlightened or Buddha enlightened, in an absolute instant, everything reverses. All the negativity that you felt of how difficult things are and are going to be, and it's just gone. It's just like, you're not saying, the concept that you hear, oh, bring it on, bring it on. It's kind of like that, but it really isn't, because you're not saying bring it on. You don't want it. You're not an idiot. But if it happens, you don't give a shit. You just don't care. Because they're just jacking with you. They're just, when I say they, I'm talking about the astral plane, demons, spirits, this plane of existence, people, whatever. The onslaught of the opposition to you is like ineffective. And from the demonic forces, they kind of pull away eventually because they recognize they're just wasting their time. I mean, because they can continue to punish you and continue to try to torture you, but you don't care anymore. It's just like, well, yeah, this is interesting. It's not fun. I don't enjoy it. But it doesn't accomplish anything anymore because they're wasting their time. They recognize that they're wasting their time. And so they kind of walk away and concentrate their efforts on the unenlightened. But it happens in an instant. Anyways, thank you for watching. I love you, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.